Have you ever thought to yourself, boy, those apostles weren't very smart? They get to sit with Jesus himself, and they still can't seem to help but worry and miss all those important lessons that he's trying to teach them. Okay, maybe you haven't thought that, but I know I have from time to time. I mean, come on. Who better a preacher and teacher could they have had? And yet, still, sometimes they don't get it. In the book of Mark, chapter 4, we find those very apostles. They had been with Jesus a little bit at that time, and on that day, they had spent the whole day listening to Jesus speak to the crowd. He had spoken about heaven and the things of this life. And tired, Jesus decides that he needs a rest and suggests going across the lake in a boat. Now, this was probably the Sea of Galilee, which is known for its sudden and severe storms. That evening, one of these storms popped up. The Bible says it was a violent storm. The winds were raging and the waves were crashing just all over the boat. Now, many people are afraid to fly, but I've never really been that nervous, even in turbulence. Someone once asked me why. I said, I watch the flight crew. If they're not afraid, then I shouldn't have to worry either. When they get worried, I get worried. That night, the boat started to fill with water. I imagine the people on board started trying to bail the water out with whatever they could find. Their actions hampered by the rocking of the boat. Now, remember, several of the apostles were professional fishermen. They've been to sea many times and they were now afraid. So any non-sailor should also be in fear at this point. Panicked, I can see Peter, a natural leader, directing the others, telling them what they needed to do, hoping that they could just get out of this. Some bailed water out of the boat. Others, they tried rowing to shore while pulling down the sails so they wouldn't rip and be tossed about. But Jesus wasn't helping. Not seeing Jesus, they went to look for him, only to find him asleep. They're astounded. Teacher, don't you care that we're perishing? How? You can hear the fear in their voice just when you read those words. And Jesus got up and he rebuked the sea and the wind. Silence, he commanded. Be still. And the wind died down and it was perfectly calm. Why are you so afraid? He asked. Do you still have no faith? Overwhelmed with fear, they looked around and asked one another, who is this that even the wind and the sea obey him? This is the point where I often just kind of shook my head. How could they not know about Jesus after being with him and listening to him all this time? During the pandemic, it's been tough, and I've seen a lot of people being afraid. Afraid for their health, afraid for their jobs, afraid for others, and more. One day, I wasn't feeling afraid, but kind of depressed about a recent loss. So I turned to music for comfort. I went online to find the story behind the song, It Is Well With My Soul. The story behind that song is just absolutely terrible, but only from the loss that Horatio Spafford suffered, and with a great amount of faith could someone write the words of that song. Whatever my lot, thou hast taught me to say, it is well with my soul. I was looking for that reassurance that he had found. And so I went on YouTube and I searched. And I found a song, just not the song I had intended. The video was called It Is Well, and it was about 9 minutes long, if I remember, and long enough for the song and maybe some of the story behind the song. At least that's what I thought. I figured maybe someone just shortened the title because they didn't feel like typing that day. I clicked on the little thumbnail and started to listen. Only then did I realize that it wasn't the song that I was looking for, but it sounded nice and it was relaxing and it was, well, I needed nice. So I listened and I fully intended as soon as the song was over, I was going to click back and look for what I really needed. Kristen DeMarco sang this rendition of the song. I just listened, but kind of not really, just kind of the in between stage of listening and not, until I heard her sing, "The waves and the wind still know his name." Then I listened. I found myself sitting in a boat right there along with the apostles, panicked and afraid. Why are you so afraid? Do you still have no faith? We had the luxury that the apostles didn't. We know the whole story of Jesus, including his death and resurrection. We often play Monday morning quarterback with their lives, knowing what happens next and next and next again. They were experiencing it right then and there, not fully seeing and knowing like we do. And yet, even with this extra hindsight that we get to have, I still fell into that worrisome state at not knowing what was going to happen tomorrow. I listened to that song again and again that afternoon. Through it all, my eyes are on you. Through it all, it is well. I heard those lines dozens upon dozens of times that afternoon, remembering that I don't need to worry. It's all in his hands. And even though I can't see the end, I know that he's in charge. And just as he can command the waves and the wind, he can command the events in my life and in yours. And while I may not always get what I want, I can take comfort in him. I clicked on a video that day I hadn't intended, but I clicked on the video I needed. And maybe now I'll be a little slower to criticize the apostles quite so much. Now I would like to ask you some questions. And maybe you can share these with a small group or a Sunday school class when you meet again. Or maybe this is part of that time. Have you ever wondered how the apostles couldn't see what it was that Jesus was trying to teach them? What do you do when you find yourself starting to worry? Can you think of a time that you had worried and worrying about it actually helped? How can a faith in Jesus help you overcome difficult times?